Today we're doing verbal reasoning and we're going to go through a question type called analogies. Some of the material has been taken from our verbal reasoning book, which you'll be able to find in the description. And also we're going to provide a downloadable PDF which you can work through, and it's got 20 questions or so on it dealing with this question type. So let's get into it. Analogies are really quite challenging. They're, I think, the hardest, or one of the harder verbal reasoning questions or question types. So I'm just going to go through a brief explanation and then we'll move on to do some questions together. So analogies are comparisons between two things. In order for an analogy to work, the comparison has to be the same on both sides. If we look at this example here, we've got hair is to human, strand, or style, as fur is to coat, body, and animal. Okay, so what we need to do first is we need to find similarities that link the first pair with the second pair. Our first step is to find the relationship between the first word and each of the words in the first bracket. So let's look at that first word. So our first word is hair, and then that relates to humans because humans have hair, and then hair to strand. Hair is made of strands of hair. And our final word is style. So hairstyle, hair can be styled. Okay. Our next step is finding the relationship that between the second word and each of the words in the second bracket. So we've got fur and coat. Creatures with fur have a coat of fur. Fur and body. Creatures with fur have fur on their body. Fur and animal. Animals have fur. So what we need to do now, and this is where a lot of people get stuck, is you've got to think what idea is similar between the pair from step 1 and the pair from step 2. There's only one relationship that can be said to be identical. So there's hair to human and fur to animal, because humans have hair and animals have fur. So even though all of the rest of them are related in some way, they're the only two that share the same relationship. If we look at our answer, it says hair is to human, hair is to strand, and hair is to style. It's not that these don't have a relationship. It's that fur and animal shares the same relationship as hair to human. And that's often where students go wrong. Okay, so bearing that in mind, obviously in the book you get a whole load of questions yourself that you can practice. So I'm just going to go through some analogies that I've made up for this particular video. Here's our first one. So we've got horse, monkey, elephant is to cub, foal, and litter. So let's just go through each of those. So you've got some animals there. So you've got horse, monkey, and elephant. And then you've got cub, foal, and litter. And you can notice that, well, a cub is like a baby bear or something like that. A foal is actually a baby horse. And a litter is a group of kittens or something like that. Bearing that in mind, the only one that is possible to form a relationship is horse and foal. Monkeys don't relate to any of these. Elephants don't relate to any of these. Or a horse relates to a foal. So the only possible relationship there is the horse and the foal. And then we've got tiger, deer, kangaroo. So tiger, deer, and kangaroo, again, groups of animals. In this one, a joey is actually a baby marsupial. So it relates to kangaroo. Chick isn't a baby of a tiger, a deer, or a kangaroo. And a calf isn't a baby of a tiger, deer, or a kangaroo. So the only possible answers are horse and foal. And then it'll be kangaroo and joey. Let's go to the next one. So this is another sort of style that I've seen where they present the initial relationship and then you've got to analogize the next one, or find the relationship between the next one that matches. So first of all, you've got to think about this. Fly is to kite. Well, fly is a verb associated with a kite. So you've got see, which is a noun. We've got sail, and sail can be a verb, or it can be a noun. And you've also got stem. So stem is a noun, and it describes a plant. You've got ship, you've got plane, and you've got mountain. Then your possible relationship will be between sail and ship, because you sail a ship. Let's look at the next one. This is another form of analogy where the letters have actually been reversed. So you've got buns is to snub. Now you notice that the relationship between buns and snub is that the letters have been reversed. So you've got B-U-N-S and then you've got S-N-U-B. So they've been turned around. So because that's the relationship between these two, there's no other sort of meaning-based relationship. We've got bake, dance, and deer. And they've got rain, read, and sing. The only one where the letters have been reversed is deer and read. So as you can see here, you got R-E-E-D in deer. And that reads the same as read, so R-E-E-D. So that's the relationship that works. So we're just going to highlight those. So that's the pairing that works. Let's look at the next one. So we've got our day whole is to night moon whole. And if you listen carefully, you'll be able to hear I hope you'll be able to get the pairing. As evening, gale, and leak is to leak, need, and light. So there should be something that stands out in that group. So you've got hour, day, whole, night, moon, whole. Evening, gale, leak, need, light. And what should have stood out to you is a homophone, or something with the same sound. So we've got whole and then whole in our first pairing. We've got whole and whole. And then we've got leak and leak. So L-E-E-K versus L-E-A-K. They've got the same sound, but they've got different meanings. There's other relationships that might stand out to you, but so for instance, if you look at hour, you might be thinking, oh, it's got something to do with like time passing, so you might relate it to night somehow, or you might have day and night, so you've got opposites there. But is that present? Is that same relationship present in the second pairing? It isn't, because if you look, evening, suppose you've got evening and light, they're not really antonyms, so you couldn't relate them to day and night. That's one of the hard things, because a lot of students will just find, oh, day relates to night, and then they'll just find a completely different relationship with the second pairing. But the skill is to find two relationships one relationship that works for both groups. Let's look at the final example. So you've got optimist, good, and brave is to inventor, ignorance, and pessimist. You've got optimist, doesn't relate to optimist. Well, an inventor can be optimistic, but not necessarily. You've got an optimist and ignorance. Optimist and ignorance, if you're an optimist, it could mean that you're ignorant, or it could mean that you're not. So again, it's not really a strong relationship. Optimist and pessimist, however, they are opposites, or antonyms. You've got good. Good doesn't, inventor is good, but again, it's not necessarily that strong of a relationship. You've got good and ignorance. Ignorance isn't a good thing, but again, it's not that strong of a relationship. And then you've got good and pessimist. They're sort of opposite, but not as opposite as optimist. And then you've got brave, inventor. An inventor can be brave. You can be brave and ignorant, but also brave and courageous. So brave and knowledgeable. So again, the relationship isn't very strong. And then you've got brave and pessimist. And they don't really go together at all. So the only logical things that fit together are optimist and pessimist. Let's look at the second lot. So you've got young, feeble and kind, strong, elegant and beautiful. Young sort of goes together with strong in some ways because they're characteristics that are shared, potentially, but they're not. One doesn't necessarily lead to the other. So you can be young and not strong. So the relationship isn't that strong, funnily enough. You got young and elegant. Again, they're things that could go together, but they're not necessarily things that go together. And then you got young and beautiful. Because you're young doesn't necessarily mean you're beautiful, even though they come together a lot. You got feeble and strong. They're actually antonyms. So you can be feeble. Feeble means weak, and then you got strong. Feeble and elegant, again, they don't necessarily come together. You got feeble and beautiful, they don't necessarily come together. You got kind and strong, not necessarily coming together either. You got kind and elegant, they don't necessarily have that strong of a relationship. And you got kind and beautiful, they might be characteristics shared, but again, they're not a very strong relationship. So feeble and strong are antonyms, as are optimist and pessimist, and that's why the answers are optimist, pessimist, feeble, and strong. You should be able to tell from this that analogies require you to have a strong vocabulary, sometimes a good general knowledge. They also require quite a lot of logical thought, and you need to be able to link one set to the other, and they've got to share the same relationship between both sets. I'd recommend improving your vocabulary. Again, link in the description, we've got a vocabulary book just for you, ready for download. If you'd like to practice some more, download our worksheet below. And also, if you want to check out our book, again, the link is in the description. If you want to watch another video, click here. And please like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel.